Hey there, just wanted to film a video to go over the custom shuttle system that I made for my Garmin Livescope unit. There's a couple videos out there regarding these, and I wanted to do one of my own for the custom setup that I have for it. This is for the Lvs34 transducer and the Garmin Echomap UHD2 93 SV screen is the unit that I used for it. This system I'm guessing would work for any system that you're doing, and so I'll go through just an overview. So I have the screen mounted to a ram mount system so that I can turn this any direction, get a good angle on there. And then the transducer I have mounted to the HD Innovations carbon fiber 20 to 60 inch telescopic pole. And then the Packout box is Milwaukee's Packout, and then it's mounted to their Packout plate. So my plan is once I find a permanent spot that I like in the boat that I have for it, I can just mount this plate and then remove the entire box just by pulling that lever and lifting up, and that plate will stay mounted to the boat at all times. That way I can take this unit if I go to if I'm with another person on a different boat. This is everything that you need for the Livescope unit. The battery, everything is installed in here, so I can take this ice fishing or anything without having to do any changeover. So the nice thing with the way I mounted the transducer pole is it's on a ram mount, and just by loosening it, if there's an ice fishing hole drilled behind it, you'll be able to tighten this in place and use your Livescope this way. Also, if there's a boat that maybe necessarily doesn't have a mounting system for the ram mount, I myself have an Alumacraft and it's got the Alumatrack system, so I have another ram ball mount mounted onto this, so I will clamp this to my rail and then move the pole onto this mount and use it that way. On the back side I have a cord grommet with the transducer cord. I'm able to just pull out as much cord as I need to depending on what depth I'm fishing, extended, or how far away the transducer pole is from the box itself. And then the cords for the screen are coming through a rubber grommet on the top as well. On the front I have this switch panel that I got off of Amazon. It's got 12 volt voltmeter with 2 USB ports for charging any other devices, as well as on-off power switch, and that will be the master power switch for the entire unit. It'll turn your black box off so that your battery's not getting any power draw from it, and then it powers everything down so the screen can't turn on. That way you know that the battery isn't draining just when your system's hooked up. Opening the box up. Would recommend when you're opening it up and it's not mounted to anything to keep the plate attached on the bottom. Otherwise it'll have a tendency to roll over just because of all the weight that you have on the top cover. I found this strap just laying around that I had. I was able to just bolt it right to the box here and here. That way the weight's not all the way just on the hinge of the cover, it's being held open that way. Looking inside, I got the black box mounted to the top, and then everything else is mounted down in here. One of the nice things also is when I want to store the screen, if I'm traveling somewhere and I don't want to damage this, I can simply lift this open and there's storage for it right down next to the rest of the transducer cord. Place that in there, close the box, and then you can take this on the road, pack it in the back of a truck or back of a UTV when you're ice fishing. Do more of a first person here looking at the box. So again, the switch panel is mounted right here. Cords for the screen are coming through there. I still gotta wipe this off. There was some super glue and caulk I used on those. Power, and then your Ethernet cable for networking. And then same thing right here, transducer cables pulling through the back. That way it's as watertight of a system as possible. Opening the box up. Inside, I mounted the black box to here. You'll notice that it's hard to tell, but a few of these parts of the plastic molding of the top cover actually sat raised out a little bit, so I had to go through with a Dremel and cut those off just so this sat flush. I tried to get it as tight to the side as possible. That way you have the most room for running all your cords on this side. And then these are just, I believe these are number 10 bolts. Most of the hardware is either number 10 or number 8 SAE thread. So I jam nutted on the back side. That way that through piece, instead of trying to reach it from one side to another, that stud stays in place. That way you can just take this lock nut off and the whole box will come off without losing the stud on the back side. Cords coming out of the GLS10 black box. You got your transducer cable here, which I installed a small cord piece to here. These are 1/4 by 20 bolts, and they actually fit perfectly, and they basically tap the hole themselves into these. So I put one of those there just to kind of hold that cord in place, coming away from the ceiling edge, because you don't want to be pinching your cords when you're closing the cover. So I have that coming down, and all the extra transducer cable is stored in here. If I need more, I can just pull it straight through here. This is just a rubber grommet. It slides through nice and easy. Second cord here is the networking cord. That just goes through the top and connects to the back of the screen. And then power cable, I took it and I did the same thing, and I ran it through one of these cord grips. Ran it through this way just to kind of take up some of the extra cord that was provided from the all-in-one wiring harness that you get from Garmin with this specific kit that I got. That way all these cords are pulled away from this edge. And that's just routed down, and the power cord splits, and these 2 fuses were supplied with it. And then those are the spade terminal quick connectors. And this is also the charging cord. The Amped Outdoors battery that I have had a different meet up to it, so I just didn't need to worry about using this. There's also the accessory cords here. I wasn't worried about attaching anything to those, so those are just left zip tied there, so that when you close it, everything kind of falls to the side and isn't pinched anywhere. For the wiring that I did with it, I do have this 12 volt outlet down here. I don't have any wires ran to it just because I don't anticipate to use it much. If I ever want to, I would just simply wire a jumper from the switch over to this 12 volt. This voltmeter is hooked up. It's got the 2 USBs on it. And if you look at the back side, it's kind of hard to tell in a mess, but I have the power currently connected. The positive is connected to the switch, and then a jumper up to this voltmeter, and then the black negative cable is connected from the black voltmeter to the switch, and then this cord right here is going to the battery. So the way I have the battery connected, I cut a little cutout, just enough to fit the cords through out of these plastic dividers that were in the Packout system. And then with my Amped Outdoors battery, I was given the charger that has the double spade terminal on it, so I connected this just to the top of the battery on the spade terminals, and then the power for the switch and the rest of everything to the battery. So that way everything goes through the switch. When you turn the switch on, then it releases power to the black box and the screen. I kind of made a little custom, just a couple pieces of plywood I had laying around. I took a strap and ran it through it, cut a little slot in it, ran it and attached it over the battery. That way it prevents it from sliding this direction. And then I put another strap over the top from these dividers kind of lock in place a little bit. My plan is to also get a piece of foam or something that I can put in here just to prevent everything from bouncing up and down too much, but for the most part that keeps it locked in place. With this compartment, I had a little extra space, so it worked perfect to put the charger in here. That way I always know I have my charger on me for charging these lithium batteries. I know they take specific chargers, so it's always good to have that. And then there's plenty of room for my 9-inch Garmin screen. I just store it, slide it right in here when I want to pop it off, and that way everything's contained in this box. I don't have to worry about anything getting damaged. So I'll go down and I'll turn the power on down here. The battery I have is a 19 amp hour, 14.8 volt amped outdoors lithium ion battery, reading 16.4 volts here. Turn the screen on, and it's powering up right now. All right, screen's powered up, and you'll see on here we're reading 16 volts at the screen, and then 16.2 down here. I'm not sure how accurate these switches are. This is just an Amazon switch, but there's the entire setup. Nice thing too is this cover, instead of laying around getting lost blowing out of the boat, it can also be stored into there. And then the whole system, you can just grab by the handle, pick the whole thing up, and travel to whatever ice fishing location, camping, going between boats, anything, be able to use this unit on. Another item to point out is if I go ahead and I turn my screen off, it'll power down. And if you need to charge anything via the USBs, you could still power this box on without having to run your screen. Black box stays on with this, and then to kill power to the entire system, simply just turn it off, and now you know that your battery's not draining additional power while you're transporting it from locations or not using it. That concludes the video that I have for this unit. I have yet to use it out on the water or anything, but I'm pretty optimistic about how well it'll work. I think it'll perfectly suit the kind of fishing. I've never used a Livescope unit before, but having the opportunity to move it wherever I want and really get a feel for if I'm going to be using it in the back of the boat, front of the boat, ice fishing, I don't have to switch anything over or purchase another unit to do it. Another nice thing about this system compared to similar like Summit innovation shuttles or anything is they sit a lot lower. So having this, it'll sit up quite a bit higher from if it's sitting on the ice or the side of your boat or front of your boat, wherever you have it. It'll sit up nice and elevated, that way you're not looking down so long at it. Overall, pretty excited for it. I didn't look at it like I was necessarily even trying to save money, as more to have a more rigid, heavy-duty system where I can store my screen on the inside. I could remove the transducer, put it on the inside. That way, if I'm going on long trips or packing things in tight quarters, I know that everything's contained in this box. And then if any splash or anything is hitting anything, I don't have to worry about my wires necessarily getting soaked. They'll stay. The box itself is a waterproof box, but obviously with drilling the hole for the cords through the top and stuff, it's not as waterproof. But you still have the opportunity to open it up, drain it out if you need to, drill a hole in the bottom, you know, something like that. But with as much as these systems cost, I looked at it like I wanted something that was more rigid just to protect the investment, and that way I'll get some good use. I'll be sure to follow up maybe on ice or on water video. That way you can see it in action, and I can provide any feedback at that point. Thanks for taking a look at this video.